Welcome everyone to this live podcast. Today we're going to dive into the 32 million Series B round just raised by Shelley, Copsey, and team at FYLD. Shelley, of course, is CEO and co-founder, and we have Rémi with us, Rémi Said from Partech, who's leading the Partech 300 million euro growth strategy, and who, of course, joined in this round that I honestly think is underreported on, but I think we'll get into that, the importance of infrastructure and what some might call the boring layer, but which I think most investors agree is the place where Europe will win. To just make sure that everyone understands what FYLD is about, I'll try and just really quickly describe it, and then Shelley, I'll invite you to correct me where I'm sure I get stuff wrong. So FYLD builds AI that helps frontline infrastructure workers make better decisions in the field, essentially bringing the intelligence layer to the physical economy. Shelley, you've spent years working across utilities and infrastructure. You can explain this much better to everyone than I can. So please, would you not just take over for me and make this a little more engaging than a podcaster that doesn't know anything about the real world? So please go.
Happy to. So if you think about the companies that bring water to our houses, energy to our houses, build the roads that we drive on, the railways that we use to travel, those sectors have not been digitalized, right? They're run on pen and paper. We taxpayers spend an awful lot of money trying to keep them running. We need more as urbanization takes hold. There is no more money and infrastructure is starting to crumble. At FYLD, we just figured there had to be a better way to do this when you look at all of the technology shifts over the last 5 to 10 years. And so what we really focus on is, every day these companies send out 5, 10, 30,000 people. We help them understand what are those people doing? What are the challenges that they're up against at delivering their work? If I, as a remote manager, have got 20, 30 crews out there, which ones need my attention? Where are things going wrong? How do I positively intervene and drive all of those operations, which are hugely complex, to safe operation each and every day?
Rémi, I want to ask you as the investor, why were you super excited? Why did you think that this was where you'd put a lot of money to work?
Look, obviously because of the quality of the team, as always. But I think that on our side, we've spent quite a lot of time speaking to customers. And we've spoken, I think, with 15 customers of FYLD, one-on-one. And we never heard such an overwhelming feedback on a solution than the one we have heard on FYLD. It was amazing. And we were talking to, people that are on the field, people that are using the solution on a day-to-day basis. And the feedback was amazing. Basically, they were telling us, one, it's super helpful. It's super, it helps resolve a lot of issues that they had before that just digitalization and AI is bringing to them. Two, you're talking about workers that not necessarily want to change their habits. FYLD solution has a 100% usage. You implement the solution, all your teams are using it day to day. Amazing.
Shelley, maybe you can talk a bit about that. Why have you been able to get that amount of adoption? Because I think we've all been in companies and seen how new product implementation works. It's not always that great.
No, and when you look at why has this industry not digitized, usually the failings are because what happens when you go out into the field and you try to deploy the technology, right? What we see are user experience designers, customers, big tech companies designed for the back office. How do I make the finance teams easier? And then the finance team says, if the front line will give me A, B, C, and D, my life will be easier. And we keep designing for the back office and we shove it onto these frontline workers who are in very difficult conditions. Think working in the rain, the sun, long hours, physical. We did it completely differently at FYLD. We were built with one of the UK's biggest gas networks, Scotia Gas Networks. We had 750 field workers, and we started by going out and saying to them, how could we make your life easier? We had a hypothesis. If we made the life of the field worker easier, the results would flow to the back office, and that people historically just started at the wrong spot. The app is simple. It does not matter if you're an older worker or a younger worker. It's easy, and we keep it easy and simple, and we make their lives, much better out in the field every day.
Maybe to complete, I think this is what then brings immediate return on investment for the customers. So the whole chain from the CEO to CFO is happy because they have they are making return on investment on the investment of implementing the solution. And on a day-to-day basis, the workers are super happy because they are using a tool that is very simple to use and bringing the AI world into their day-to-day job. And I think that's the beauty of FYLD, and that's why we were super excited to invest.
Shelley, maybe you can talk a bit about AI, because to many, AI is a very new field and we haven't really seen it deployed, but you've really managed to do it at scale, which I think is quite considerable given that most of us are just in the early innings.
So we've had AI operational in these difficult infrastructure environments for over 5 years. And as you say, most people are just thinking about it today. From the get-go, we always thought this is an industry that is struggling to have enough skilled labour. This has never been about replacing the workforce. It's always been about making them more active. Again, why do we get adoption? It's because we have that approach. But then we also think about it should just like slip into the background. So whenever you look at the FYLD product, you're never consciously going, oh, I'm using AI here. But we're just like giving people insightful recommendations about what they might do next, some of the risks in their environment. But it's always from a how do we help the field worker and how do we make it really understandable. There's no black box that goes on at FYLD. It's all about that field worker's life being easier and them understanding why we're making suggestions.
Rémi, I know you have some situations that you saw specifically around adoption that you thought, okay, this is where like your pupils dilated. You really realized, okay, this is exactly the company you want to back.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe just one anecdote, which is quite nice, is we talked to a US person, a veteran of the industry. And it was a simple anecdote, but when you talk to people and they give you their whole flavor, it's always interesting. And he told us, look, when I met the founders of FYLD and they explained to me what the product could bring and what was the power of it, I told them I want to invest in you. I want to buy your company, and I found it very interesting to see a veteran of the industry adopting new technologies and willing to say that to potential new investors.
Okay. Shelley, maybe you can talk a bit about the future of frontline work. What does it look like? Where do you think we're headed? Both the more audacious, the long-term goal, where are we headed? But also, like right now, what happens to people using FYLD?
I actually think that the construction and infrastructure sector is adopting AI at a pace that people from the outside probably don't see. The multitude of problems are huge, right? And the spend in this industry is phenomenally big. They need to make change. We're feeling the pull. What I'm already seeing today is that the forward-thinking organisations have shifted to a co-pilot mentality very, very quickly. If I just go to like supply chain, the margins are very thin in the supply chain industry. It's very competitive to bid work. The smart movers are moving today and saying, how do I protect margin? How do I deliver better outcomes for asset owners by adopting AI? And we're seeing that at pace. The other thing I think that's very interesting right at the moment is we're seeing a complete shift away from pilots. We're seeing people realise that if you want to actually implement AI in a meaningful way, you need a large number of people, you need data, and you need to like validate if a company like FYLD is the right company to work with in a different way to the old world pilots. It's really interesting seeing the appetite from the first movers to go fast. My personal prediction is that we will see industry consolidation in the supply chain by those that go quickly, get bigger margins and can afford to buy the laggards. I think it's going to be a really interesting 10 years. If I roll forward though, this industry works in silos. So, you get organisations that will run their gas vertical, their energy vertical, their water vertical, their data center, right? Each of these verticals has got too many people in it because they, get people to do very specific tasks related to vertical and type of competency. I can see this entire framework breaking down. I can see that people are going to say, let me understand your core skill sets. How does that apply to the broader organisational needs? And I think that's going to be a key way that we begin to tackle the labour shortages. I think there's going to be a lot of non-traditional thinking come into, very old world target operating models. And again, that's something that we're seeing already in some of our earlier moving customers.
Yeah. Rémi, your take on the industry, where are things moving? What have you investing in FYLD made you think about the frontline workers and how this space is moving?
Yeah, I think we mentioned it at the beginning, but I think you have curves of digitalization in a certain number of industries, and I think infrastructure is likely one that is lagging behind the other industries. While you have a ton of new technologies that are able to be brought to the front line and to the people that are actually working in these companies, and I think that what I like about FYLD is that it's you can see it as one of the first potential implementation of AI and digitalization for these players and for the frontline part, which is probably unlikely the one that has been left behind in the industry for decades.
Yeah, Shelley, I gotta ask you, because you've built an incredible company already. You're also a women co-founder, which is something that you don't see that often. You're really one of those people that we're all talking about, saying, how do you do it? I'd love to ask you, what are your core learnings from this journey to everyone in the audience?
First and foremost, I think since the day we built FYLD, and remember we started during the COVID years, you've got to put like all of your traditional way of thinking behind you. And at the moment, when you look at how fast like AI is even moving into business operations, you've just got to consciously park those biases. What we try to do on repeat at FYLD is say, like any given day, we've got a silver platter of assets, right? We've got, investors that have trusted us and given us cash. We've got customers, we've got product, but what does our business look like in the next 6 months, in the next 12 months? I say on repeat to the team, right? Last year we doubled in size, we did really well. We want to do that again this year, but repeating what we did last year, this year is not going to get us to that outcome. You have to start with almost that silver platter of assets, very deliberate thinking, and off you go on your journey again. And we constantly seek to reinvent ourselves, but I will caveat it always by being extremely customer focused. Our team is out in the field with our customers every day of the week, making sure they're getting value from the product, making sure we understand their pain points. And I think if you can couple that constant recreation, but with a deep understanding of how you drive value, in some of these older world industries, the world really is your oyster at the moment about what the size of the opportunity is for you.
Yeah. Rémi, maybe you can talk to this point of the growth stage in Europe. My curious, or where I'm super curious, is where do you see us truly winning when it comes to the European founders versus some of the rest of the world?
Yeah, so look, we at Partech and at Partech Impact, we have this belief that the innovation and the technologies that we have in Europe are best in class. And the issue you have is not to find the right innovations, is really that the point that Shelley just mentioned, is really supporting the companies when they start to reach this size that FYLD is at growth stage, and really get to the next level and to scale up. And this requires a lot of new capabilities. It requires a lot of new ways of looking at your company. It's not a startup anymore. You need to structure a bit more your team. You have a larger team, so you need to make sure that they work well together. You have a commercial engine that starts to be more complicated because you want to sign even more new customers. If you want to double every year, it means that you need to sign twice new customers, even more than that. So it is a lot of things that are in the plates of founders, and that's what we like, and that's what we are. Why we are here is really to try to support this new generation of technologies and European technologies to become global champions, and making them structure themselves the right way to tackle all the challenges we mentioned.
Shelley, I'm going to bundle two questions in one. One is, where can this go? What is the total market share? What can you achieve? Why is this $1 trillion business opportunity? And the second question is, you have now raised a massive round to go to the US and expand even further there. I'd love to ask you a bit about your learnings from that, and exactly what you think that we could confer to other founders building and making ready for that step.
We've been in the US for, 3-4 years now. I think the smartest thing that we did, we knew a customer here, Ferrovial, right? Global powerhouse in our industry. They saw what we were doing and they said, can you come to the US and deploy? The problems are similar. We didn't go in too fast and heavy, right? We just went in quietly. We worked with them for a year. We got a great local case study. And I think that, the importance of being very deliberate when you go international can't be overstated. Really easy on the European side of the pond to think that your case studies are going to resonate when you get over to the US, right? So I always think be very deliberate and think about, if I go back to like a silver platter of assets, what are the silver platter of assets I'm going to need to grow there? So we did that very deliberately. Where will this company grow? If you take the example of a Ferrovial asking us to go to the US, not us over there fighting for our first customer, fieldwork is growing at an exponential pace, right? You look at the pace of assets that have been built out as the world urbanizes. I just see that we're building here the reference platform for an operating platform for field services, right? We've got our asset management systems, we've got our HR systems, ERPs, and yet we send, in some of these companies, 30,000 people out into the field every day, and we manage them with WhatsApp, with phone calls, with text messages, emails. It's like actually quite staggering that the amount of work gets done that actually does get done, but the art of the possible is so much more. So we will build that global reference platform. The types of companies we're acquiring in the US, we've just mentioned Ferrovial, but we've got, your Qantas, your TC Energies, Kiwits, amazing companies. Our intention is to fully take that market as first mover, always with an eye on making the field workers' day super easy and simple, having them walk out the house in the morning knowing that they'll go home safely every day.
Yeah. Rémi, I'd love to ask you a follow-up question on that and just leave the parting words with you. Where do you see the company going? Why in the end, why were you so excited when you met Shelley?
Honestly, we are super bullish. I think that the times to growth that Shelley mentioned is achievable every year because of the depth of the market. Second, because of the true and unique value proposition that FYLD is bringing to their customers. Again, without this, you cannot grow. And three, because we are quite convinced that the team is truly amazing. And they know the challenges ahead and they know how to tackle them. So, sky is the limit.
Awesome. Shelley, am I right to say that if there are anyone building in this space, engineers, AI developers, then you'd love to talk to them because you are about to hire a mass of people?
I would love to talk to them, and I just want to shout out to my team, like Rémi said, amazing bunch of us, but we're always looking for more amazing people to join the journey.
Incredible. Thank you everyone for tuning in today. I hope you are as excited about the future of European tech as I am. Shelley, Rémi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.